What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers. Subscribe to our Patreon free to stay in the loop. Arm yourselves. Life stuff. Today we're talking about the way we develop and the society within which we develop. You'll hear people say people don't change. They become who they are. And I view that as more of a refining process, figuring out how to do what you were born to do. Because I've gone through a bunch of different eras, but today I feel like a refinement of the child I was. And as a kid, there was a lot of good and bad. Now, your bad aspects are the most important because they're the only ones anybody cares about. And that's true through all stages of life, it seems like. Most people will see and remember only your bad. So as a kid, I was really stupid and unaware of everything, even more so than now, which one of the reasons I try never to bury myself too deeply into any one thing or to leave routes out is I am always terrified I am missing something obvious. As a kid, I got bullied a lot, and there were many expectations I didn't meet and would never be able to meet. So when I changed schools in the third grade, all that stuff intensified. And your childhood is like a huge lump of flesh. And there are lots of tumors that represent ways you were, things you did, things that happened to you, etc. And when I think about my childhood, or in my mind, I view my entire childhood as one particular tumor, one particular pattern of behavior. And there are tons of these things, but this is the one I think about most often. I was a displacement bully. And that pattern occurs when you take someone who gets bullied a lot, they make friends with other bullied kids, and you treat them well because they're your friends, and you also treat them poorly because you can't bully your bullies. You can't bully or fight against the circumstances of your childhood, so you take it out on people close to you. I wonder where I picked up that pattern. And this particular tumor tortures me because there is no way to seal it. You can't not have done it, but you also can't wrap it up nicely in a bow of pure negativity and be done with it, move on, because at least in that case, if you are purely doing shitty things, at least it's clear. I don't know if I'll ever totally be able to let this go because I was very bad and very good. But in conflicted situations like these, you're the only one who will ever care about the good stuff, but that might just be a defense mechanism attempting to protect you from the bad. But nobody else would care about any of that good anyway. Or, in other words, it's not like you're going to protect yourself from anything, at least from other people, or resolve anything, because the bad is all anybody cares about. So, this is a totally you thing, this conflict. However, if you could mark it as a totally self defense thing, then that would be another method of wrapping it up in that nice bow and being able to move on because at least you understand it, or things fit into the big puzzle. The trouble for me is it still doesn't fit. Before we move forward, I just realized I gave no concrete examples for what I'm talking about in terms of behavior. On the positive side, you have tribal protectiveness. Some kids harass your friend in the neighborhood, threaten him. Well, we'll go out and harass and threaten them back. If the problem doesn't get resolved, then at least your friend feels supported. On the negative side, you shove that friend around and make fun of him, both to satisfy your displacement need for petty power over somebody else, and in a nasty way, try to harden this friend up, not realizing that's doing no good. See, it's okay to hurt people when you think your intentions are good and they're your people, not going out and hurting somebody else. No, you're hurting the people closest to you. That makes it okay. But the reason none of the attempts to wrap all this up and let you move forward don't work is this pattern, or there is no moving forward pattern. There is no fixing anything pattern. I think your youngin' patterns are who you are. However, in my head, the way things are supposed to work, once you realize you can do things differently, you try to do things differently. Refine the good as much as possible, remove the bad as much as possible. And from ages 17 to 25, that is what I made efforts to do. However, there is no good outcome doing that. And it's not even in the sense, once you've sinned, you carry that sin forever and you will be punished for it forever. That is the case, but it's more like people are just bad, basically. And this isn't a revelation, this is either something we talk about often or is in the background of stuff we talk about often. But it takes on a different flavor from a well-intentioned angle or from an outside perspective. You can be a full saint and people will still treat you as if you in particular have wronged them in some way. And not just in a rudeness sense, but in a trying to ruin your life sense. It's like this being good or trying to become better idea is a myth, when in truth, most people exist to target one another. They exist to do shitty things to people, to each other. And you'll notice when you're trying to do good things, give nobody any reason to hate you, and in fact, do as much as you can to give people reason, if not to like you or to treat you well, to treat you as well as you treat them, then at least not to fuck with you. They will still fuck with you without reason, but then if you do bad back to them, they use your bad actions, even if they are a response to their bad actions, to excuse their bad actions, when in reality they would have targeted you and attacked you whether or not you did anything. It seems like for most people, other people are just targets that sometimes hand out justifications for being targeted, but that justification doesn't really matter because most people would view other people as targets anyway, which leads us to where we are now. Rather negative, which is all anyone is ever going to see or care about, and then on the other hand, tribally positive, which as you're doing good things, you realize as you're doing them, they don't matter. Except both now refined a bit more. And all I can wonder is, why are things like this? If the idea, socially, is not even to reward people who are doing good, but to punish people who are doing bad, then why are we punishing and targeting everybody? that defeats the purpose. There is zero reason or moral reason not to be a cutthroat. Because if the idea is to avoid being communally beaten for doing bad, if not by doing good, then at least by not doing bad, and you still get communally beaten and targeted anyway, then what's the point? And on a larger scale, what are we trying to accomplish? Forget what we're trying to avoid. What outcome are we striving toward? We do put the idea of good things on a pedestal, whether or not they're actually good, but we've established that's a myth because that's not the way people act. So, is our overall goal as a society or as a species to feel better about the fact that we are basically shitty and can't or won't do anything about it? And in a world of big, screwed up lies, this is a big one. And that leads into some thoughts on big problems like these, big deceptions generally. I don't know about you, but I follow tons of channels that document thoroughly so many problems in society. We are excellent at identifying and documenting problems. We put a lot of work into documenting these problems thoroughly, but there is never a plan or an action to solve any of them. Maybe, if you're lucky, someone will give you an idea of a world in which things could be better, but that's the equivalent of being handed a postcard with a picture of a pretty house on it while your house is burning down. We'll even create art extensively examining how bad things are, beyond just the documentation. Our feelings and expressions about how bad things are, how wrong things are. But nothing ever happens. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets solved. Society does as we do, i.e., nothing changes, things just get more refined. Or we get better at doing what we originally did, have already done, are doing, will do. And right now, I'm doing exactly what I am complaining about. Documenting a problem, expressing about a problem, and doing nothing. Because in the same way as when you're an individual trying to do something, trying to do better, and it's worthless in the end, I think society is in the same spot. You can try to do something, but it won't change anything. You aren't going to fix the problem or escape it. All you're doing is inviting notice for the problem to hit you harder. But you were going to get hit hard anyway, so what's the point? Even on a societal level, these efforts are pushed in the same way individuals are. Pushed straight back into doing whatever you were doing originally, except now, hopefully, quotes, doing it a little better, quotes. While we did actually manage to keep this one rather brief. Merry Christmas. I hope your holiday went well. See you next time. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.